right, the first arrangement that we're going to do today is called a color scheme Moribana. Moribana really means piled in flowers, and this style was created by our first headmaster and was really the start of the Ohara school. And the idea of this arrangement is to layer in materials in such a way that they go horizontally across a shallow container, which is what we call the suibana. So Tom's going to bring some materials over and some water for the container. Now, all right, so this first material that I'm going to use is a yellow chrysanthemum. And one of the interesting things about chrysanthemum is that it's also the symbol or emblem, or in Japanese they call it a mon, it's like an icon, for the Emperor of Japan. And that icon has 16 petals. One of the reasons why I think this arrangement in particular is great for this exhibit is on a lot of kimono you'll see chrysanthemum featured on the kimono. This particular style, you could do two kinds of chrysanthemum. You could do 3, 5, 7. So there's a lot of options for the chrysanthemum. But as you can see, when it's a big container, you have to start a little bit taller. And I'm going to use 7 of these yellow chrysanthemums to start. One of the things in the US that I find really challenging is finding chrysanthemums with really high quality leaves. In fact, when we practice this in Japan, there's more of an emphasis on the leaves than there are on the chrysanthemum itself, the flower. Now this first stem that I put in is considered the subject stem. In Japanese we call it the shushi. And this third material I'm putting in is considered the secondary stem. And in Japanese we call it the fukushi. One of the things we're trying to do as we put the material in here is keep the material at different heights and the spacing a little bit different to keep the interest. I am using shippo today, and actually one of the things you might be interested in with the shippo, although I am using a kenzan with the shippo, is the shape itself are concentric circles. You'll notice this pattern on kimono. It's actually a very classic Japanese pattern, not only in fabric but also in architecture, like for screens. This is a very older style of securing materials within a shallow container. So unlike a tight vase where you can use different methods to keep the material close together, we use a combination of either the shippo or kenzan. next material we're going to use is these palms. Now this arrangement, when I first started Ikebana, I wanted to do this arrangement because I saw it in the end of our textbook. And it always felt to me like something a samurai might do. And I don't know why I felt that way, I just did. But this is one of the styles of arrangements you learn to do much later in the classes. So it took me a while, and I think at one of my first Ikebana international opportunities to exhibit, I actually attempted this, but with only 3 kinds of chrysanthemum. So there's a poem, although I don't know the author, but as it was explained to me in the poem, it's probably a haiku poem of some kind, that there was a samurai that was about to go into battle, and what he did was he took the bridle or the mouthpiece that he had for his horse, and he set that down and gathered some very simple materials from the field and made an Ikebana arrangement to calm himself and center himself before the battle. And I'm starting to feel very calm now as I put this arrangement together. So you'll notice I'm doing the arrangement from behind. We often do our demonstrations this way. So I'll need to probably check the quality of my work when I'm done. When you think of Ikebana, or a Japanese aesthetic, you may think of trying to keep things simple. And one of the things that we're taught is that the shape of the arrangement is defined by the negative space really around the arrangement, not just the flowers themselves. I feel like this is a bit of a loud arrangement. It kind of makes a statement. It's not subtle, which is not my personality. I tend to be a little bit more quiet or reserved. Tom may not agree. But even though this is quite full and doesn't necessarily speak to like a minimalist style, I think it's a celebration of color and materials. And this being chrysanthemums, you would typically see these materials available in nature toward the end of the summer and the fall. And so one of the things you're going to see today is several kinds of arrangements that are meant to highlight or show the interest or importance of different seasons. So this one would be more of a fall seasonal arrangement. There are many schools of Ikebana. In fact, hundreds, if not thousands, of schools. And many of the schools do borrow ideas or concepts from schools that came before them, or schools that have a timeless, classical approach to arranging. And when this style was created about 120 years ago, it was pretty unique in that no other school was doing shallow container arrangements. And one of the reasons why this style was created was because of the availability of Western materials coming to Japan. And they were able to experiment with materials that they weren't used to using before. And our first headmaster, Scheme Moribana, had this idea to try to spread the materials out in the container to show this piled in concept. In the front, we try to achieve a bit of a zigzag and a bit of a zigzag down the side so that the materials are spaced nicely. Okay, that's 5 kinds of chrysanthemum in a upright style Moribana. So this kind of focuses on a high point, a vertical piece within the arrangement.